A few weeks ago, this man told us there was gold to be found in Oklahoma and a legend to accompany it. Colorado gold diggers, a Native American raid, and a scientist who never came back.
Naturally, we were curious. We decided to pack a bag, hit the road, and find out for ourselves. So let's start at the beginning. One story of an incredible fortune in gold involves a Mexican pack train transporting well over $3 million worth of bullion. After several years of mining and smelting their ore in the Colorado Rockies, the Mexicans needed 26 burros to carry all the gold they had accumulated. Loading their other belongings into heavy ox carts, they undertook a long journey to New Orleans, where they extended to book passage to some location on Mexico's east coast. But let's pause there. In order to legitimize the tale, we did some fact-checking.
We backtracked 196 years when Mexico gains independence from Spain. The Southwest becomes part of Mexico. The last Mexican governor promises to colonize this region of southwest Colorado.
After the Mexican-American War ends, the U.S. acquired the land of Texas, and the boundaries expanded. San Luis is established as the first permanent Hispanic settlement in Colorado. The people then start to prospect for gold in the Platte River in present-day Denver. Then, in 1858, gold was discovered. This would start what came to be known as the Colorado Gold Rush. Over 100,000 people came in to get on the action, but the residents of San Luis had a head start.
So far, the legend checks out. It would make sense that a Mexican caravan to be holding all that gold because of the head start they had on everyone. And based on the maps we found of old trade routes, this exact route to New Orleans would have been the exact route the caravan would have taken through Oklahoma. Now, back to the legend.
In 1859, the caravan stopped in Santa Fe for supplies and then started the trek to New Orleans.
After crossing the Texas Panhandle, the party was navigating the hilly grasslands that is now Roger Mills County, Oklahoma, when disaster struck. As the long pack train crested a low hill on the prairie, one of the riders at the rear of the caravan yelled a warning. Indians were approaching from the north. Descending the low hill, one of the leaders spotted a shallow ravine not far away with a stream of water running through it. At one point along its course, the stream meandered in a nearly circular oxbow route around a slightly elevated sandy neck. Believing such a location offered protection, the Mexicans whipped the burros towards it. After defending their position, darkness fell and the Native Americans retreated.
When they were certain they were not being watched, the Mexicans decided to bury the gold on the island, leave the mules to distract the Indians, and effect an escape, intending to return someday to retrieve it. When all of the gold was underground, the burros were turned loose, and the Mexicans rode away toward the southeast. Precisely at dawn, the Indians arrived where the Mexicans had camped and discovered they had fled. Quickly picking up the trail, the warriors set out in pursuit, eventually overtaking the party and killing every member. The fortune in gold, estimated to be worth millions, lay buried on a sandy neck of land, almost surrounded by a bend in a tiny stream on the Oklahoma prairie. It remained there for many years. Its location completely unknown to anyone.
Pause. Now, let's go back and check the facts. If the caravan had been traveling through Roger Mills County in 1859, would there have been a Native American tribe there in order to get them?
Well, the answer is yes. Between the 1850s and the 90s, the Cheyenne Indians lived in the area and could have been the tribe that attacked the Mexican caravan.
Well, what about the river that they took shelter in and buried the gold at?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we present to you White Shield Creek. If you remember, the area that the gold is said to be buried is described as a shallow ravine where the river meandered in a nearly circular route around a slightly sandy neck. The natural formation of White Shield Creek fits this description to a T. So again, so far, so good.
Then, in 1890, an Indian attempted to pay for some goods at the Cheyenne Arapaho Agency trading post on the Washita River with a curious-looking gold bar. The trading post proprietor instantly recognized the gold for what it was and asked the Indian where he had obtained it. The Indian, a Comanche, said he had dug it up on a small island in White Shield Creek. He also stated there were hundreds more buried at the location, having been left there years earlier by some Mexicans who had been massacred by a war party, which his grandfather had led.
Accompanied by several friends, the trading post operator traveled to Carpentertown, a tiny settlement about 10 miles northeast of Elk City and close to White Shield Creek. On a nearby ridge, they found the remains of 2 or 3 ox carts and some rusted bridle bits and trace fittings. After excavating a few holes on the island, the men were unable to find anything, quickly became discouraged, and returned to the agency.
Since then, the legend seems to die. Until the 1970s, scientists developed a program to digitalize existing maps to generate topographical maps of the area from any map, past or present. The tech was released to the public in the 1980s. It was then that a scientist who heard of the legend decided to use these maps in order to track the movement of the land. He believed that people had not taken into account the land shift when looking for the gold. So, after his research was compiled, he set out to find the gold.
In a letter he composed to his wife, the researcher told about arriving in the area, climbing the low ridge, and from his vantage point, spotting the curve in the stream just east of State Highway 34. After arriving on the neck of the land located within the curve of the stream, he claimed in his letter that at last he had found the long-buried gold and that they were less than a mile from the highway. He further related that he intended to travel immediately to Elk City, rent a truck, and return to the site to recover the gold. At precisely 9:45 a.m., he was killed in a head-on collision with a pickup truck pulling a 4-horse trailer. 2 days later, his wife received the letter. In spite of the directions contained in the letter, the widow never undertook the look for the treasure, a fortune in gold that still lie buried today.
Which finally brings us to now. This is Tyson. He's the reason we found out about the legend in the first place.
Okay, so we were sitting at the co-op, which is a business my dad owns, and the guy comes in, never seen him before in my life, and he tells my dad this story. He has all these documents and everything. I'm looking at him, my dad's looking at him, and he tells my dad that if he finds the gold, he'll split it with him 50-50. So my dad, of course, says, go for it, and they go out there, and he starts digging and starts doing seismographs on the land. And my dad is always having me, do stuff for other people, so of course I go out there and I help him. And he's got this long pole and this thing on the top of it that reads if there's metal down there. Well, there's an irrigation system on the site that he was looking at. So I was thinking he was just picking up the irrigation system, but he told me that it was a certain amount of level of the gold, like the metal that was in the ground, so it wasn't the irrigation systems. But then this past summer, he got an actual hand to help him and got a skid loader down there, and they've been digging on there ever since, and they got pretty deep, but they, summer ended and they had to quit. So right now they're kind of at a standstill on it.
So the gold is still up for grabs. Like so many before us, we had to see for ourselves. And after all, a couple $1 million worth of gold would be very helpful for student loans. So we drove the 3 hours to Hammond, Oklahoma and started digging.
That dig's on me. You kill me, mom. Now I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke. Now I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead.
First thing we did was scout out the most popular location, right off Highway 34. After coming up empty-handed, we checked out a few other spots. Okay, so we're at another location where the gold is rumored to be buried, or some people have said they have seen it here. Now, if you can see those 2 towers behind me, that is the gas well of Hammond, and according to our map, the gold is right somewhere around the gas well, so we're getting pretty close.
This is another location where the gold is said to be buried. Now, the reason there are so many different locations for the gold is because of the land change in the area. Over the years, different farmers and developers have come through and either moved land around the creek or moved the creek itself to fit along both the 33rd highway and the 34th.
Still no luck. After several hours of searching to no avail, we decided to pack up for the night and checked out a different town treasure.
There you go. Thank you.
Wait.
Go with me. All right, we decided to come back on a nicer day and actually try to dig and find the gold. The land's changed a lot in the last couple years, And so we're just hoping that we're in the right spot. But based on our research, this is one of the 2 main spots it could be. The second one's a little too hard to access just because of who owns the land and stuff. But this is the land we do have access to and we can dig at. And so let's start.
Let's do it.
Let's start digging.
Dig it up, dig it. Dig it up, dig it up, dig it. Dig it up,
For 2 suits, 2 tokens in hand. I got no respect cause I'm the new man. Got my shovel, shoes full of sand. Check out the tag, the name's Caveman.
dig it up, dig it. Dig it up, dig it up, dig it. Dig it up,
Take a bad boy, make him dig 5 feet. The dirt in these shovels will give us a beat. Okay, you gotta find something never found before. If not, we'll just have to dig some more. Na 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 na.
All right, guys, so we've been out here for a few hours now. The sun is starting to set. Unfortunately, we have not found much of anything. You know, people during the gold rush had sifters and used a lot of different techniques that we unfortunately do not have. So we're kind of looking for a needle in a haystack here. But yeah, we're gonna call it a day today with the sun setting and maybe we'll find something.
The problem is we have minimal manpower,
Right.
me and you.
Right.
We have 1 shovel.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't have like a, what do you call them? Metal detector.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
would help.
would it detect?
Oh, I don't know. To do gold. Is gold metal? I feel like it is.
I think so.
Anyway, we just don't have the equipment or manpower to like really search because we dug 1 really big hole, but I mean, it could be a couple meters that way. It could be a couple meters back here. Like, I mean, like you said, needle in a haystack. So we didn't find anything.
Which leaves the question, is there still gold to be found? Did the gold really exist in the region to begin with?
Regardless, the tale is ingrained in Hammond history, passed down through generations. And as long as the legend still exists and people are willing to dig, there's always gold to be found. Right? I got a shovel, 2 tokens in hand. Don't mess with me, cause I'm the caveman.